Hello. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Undertale, which is a game that was recommended to me by a lot of people. It's had a tremendous amount of praise. The Steam comments all say that it's one of the most amazing games ever. I think it's had a lot of rightful praise for the things that the game does, so I bought it and I started to play it. And I realised about 10 minutes in that I really wasn't enjoying this game, and I sort of felt bad about this. I was thinking, oh, what have I missed? What's going on here? This is a game that everyone's kind of gone crazy over. What am I missing? What's wrong with me? Am I just this cynical old fart who can't have a good time? So this video is really about explaining what it is that turned me off this game, and hopefully from the way that I explain this, it'll give you a few ideas about how you can help hook in your gamers when they start to get immersed in your story, in your storytelling, and basically you want your gamer, the person playing through your game and experiencing a story, to be hooked as quickly as possible so that they can finish that story. So Undertale starts with a fairly simple kind of cutscene or cinematic, explaining the basic backstory about a battle between monsters and humans, and the humans seal the monsters underground. So you pick up from here. So I can't remember how far I am into the game, but I think this is pretty much just the very beginning. The game has this, I'd call it very soporific score. It's quite peaceful, but for me it was actually it kind of put me to sleep. And the look of the game didn't really appeal to me all that much. Now I understand that the game is clearly inspired by Super Nintendo RPGs. I think Earthbound is one of the most obvious inspirations. But to me, the graphics didn't really get me, or the style didn't get me. So right off the bat, I wasn't really hooked on the way the game looked, or the way that the game world looked. I found it quite flat, and the colours weren't that nice to look at, I guess. Nothing to do with 2D or the pixel kind of graphics. Like I love that generation of games, but just the style of this didn't catch me straight off the bat. The other thing that I wasn't super crazy about was the combat system. I just found it kind of dull. And very early on I found no incentive to, and this is basically the entire point of the game, but I found no incentive to spare the people or these monsters, or to do anything other than just fight them. So here I'm basically being peaceful, and I'll compliment the guy. And then you go into these little bullet hell sequences where you have to dodge these things. I didn't find that very fun or exciting. And of course later on, I won't put any spoilers here, but I've watched a few videos, and later on you realise what this is all about, and it's actually really awesome. So if you get to the end of the game, I think you learn the true kind of purpose of this story, but right out the gate it didn't really get me. And so what this made me think about was the importance of having a hook or a catch, or what Jesper Juhl would call the pull of games, what pulls you into the game. And I think part of it comes down to storytelling and the pace of the story. So that opening cutscene is really pretty simple, it doesn't tell you much. And I think from that I just didn't really have any incentive to move on. And so I think a lot of RPGs in particular often start with really cinematic, really intense opening sequences for that very reason, to draw you into the game, because they know full well that you're going to spend upwards of 20 to 40 hours in the game. I think Undertale is quite a lot shorter, but it's really important that straight out the bat, or out the gate, you get your player hooked into the story. And often it's about dropping them into a conflict or a kind of momentous or intense situation really early on. So I know that Final Fantasy X was one example of that, where it had this beautiful cinematic of I think it was a city being attacked, and you're dropped into that attack, this really epic, large-scale battle straight away. It's like the very first tutorial sequence, more or less. Even Final Fantasy VI on the Super Nintendo, or Final Fantasy III, depending on which version you're playing, drops you straight into this intense assault on a village where you are basically the villain, I think. And you have this crazy amount of power which then gets stripped away from you. So I think in terms of pull, that to me is one of those elements of pull. It's where in the story do you drop the player, how much of the story do you give them before they start to take control, and how eager are they at that point to carry on that story and to see it through. So in this case, Undertale didn't do that for me, and I realised that, and not even knowing that there'd be an amazing twist in there, which there is, it really is incredible, but I didn't feel the need to see this through to the end, which is kind of a shame. I guess I missed out. But that's hopefully something for you to consider. Whereabouts in your game do you drop the player? At what point in the story is the player picking up on the action? And how are you going to draw in that player so that they want to continue your story and finish your story the way that you want it to be told, so that they can get the most out of it? So just